Rolling. Here we go. Another day where I've ignored you as we come in, so that's good.
Cool. Episode 3.
Got some good feedback for episode 2.
Have you?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people message me, which has been really nice. A couple of people say that we're like much more chill, which makes sense because
That's good, yeah.
that first one where you don't know you just don't know what you're coming into, do you? So it's kind of, it's new. I'm always really tentative with like new stuff as well. Have to like feel it out. Whereas I think because we both knew the deal, we knew what doors we were walking into and how it works and stuff, we're just naturally a bit more relaxed. So
yeah, that's good. Yeah, I spoke to my mum earlier and she gave me good feedback. So
that's always good. That's number one there.
Yeah. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, people have said it's good, which is nice. And they liked that it was more about us and they got to understand our journeys in that half an hour snippet as much as you could do. So based on the old episode, like we're going to talk about what happened and stuff, but first of all, how are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, mate. I'm sound.
Good.
This week's been a bit of a whirlwind. It's gone like incredibly quickly. And then having a baby, mate.
Woo! Congratulations,
crazy.
man.
Obviously, you know that anyway. But was it yesterday or Tuesday? We like put it on social media. We went for our scan on Tuesday. I couldn't concentrate. I was meant to work on Tuesday, but I knew we were going to share it on social media in the evening. And I just gave up in the end. I was like, I can't do it. I went into Charlie at like 1. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to sit with you and watch some telly. She was like, why? I was like, I can't concentrate.
Yeah.
Because I saw something about ADHD, which is, I never thought I had ADHD until I started looking at some of the symptoms for ADHD.
Okay.
And one of them is like this thing where if you've got something coming up later in the day, like an appointment or something, you really struggle to concentrate at the task in hand. Your brain is like, it knows something is coming and you almost get like, you can't fixate on what you're meant to be doing now.
Yeah.
And I think I just went into that mode where I couldn't figure out every time I sat down, I was like, come on, you can do it. I went for a walk, came back, you can do it. Nah, just nothing. So yeah, it's been a bit of a mad week, but all good. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. This is obviously the podcast is about guys talking, and these last 2 weeks have just been so crazy. I feel like my mental state's just been at the lowest it's been for a long time.
Interesting.
And ironically, on Tuesday when it was World Mental Health Day, it was probably when I felt the worst. It's almost like my brain knew that like it needed to just be like, right, you're at rock bottom for this week on this day in particular. And I had to post for Clatch. I didn't post until like lunchtime because I didn't want to. My brain was like, no, don't do it. You're so insecure. You don't need to do it. And then posted and I was like, well, that was loads better.
So interesting, isn't it?
And then now, a couple of days on, I'm like, okay, cool.
Feeling all right?
Yeah, which is just weird.
I think you messaged me the other week and you said, like, sorry I've been MIA or like, sorry I've been like out there. I didn't even fucking notice, mate.
Oh, that's good.
But I could tell you were stressed. You obviously, because you said you'd taken on like, you got a lot of work on at the minute.
Yeah.
And I could tell that had stressed you. Sometimes when we came back from our travels, that whole week was like an absolute like clusterfuck for me.
Yeah.
But I still like posted on social media every day and I still communicated with my clients. But because it was so busy around all that, I felt like I hadn't fulfilled what I was meant to be doing. So I got to the end of the week and I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to lose clients. Haven't posted on socials. Like everyone's going to think I've disappeared. Like haven't tried. And then I went back and I looked at the data and I was like, sound.
Yeah.
Posted what I was meant to post, spoke to the people I was meant to speak to. Everything's okay. And I feel like you maybe just had one of those kind of like moments where you were like,
100%. Like I've looked at my list before I came here with my like to-do list and I was like, well, that's ticked off and that's ticked off. I was like, I've got a full day of working tomorrow. I'm freelance, but I don't need to stress about it because I know exactly what I need to do. Got 3 projects to do. Boom, done. Monday, Tuesday off. Go and see Blink on Sunday. Go and see Kids in Glass House on Monday night with the boys in Manchester. So I was like, what am I stressing for? I've done everything. Like I actually posted. I could have just not posted all day about mental health. I was like, no, I need to do it because that's the brand. Like that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, it'd be really good to talk on the podcast when we booked it.
Yeah.
I was like, the fact that, I was feeling so shit And then now I'm like, chilling. Don't know why I was stressing.
It's interesting. I think, again, we spoke about it briefly and we will speak about it 100 times more. When you're self-employed, there is this constant internal dialogue. For me, at least, there is. And I know there probably is with you, that you should be doing stuff all of the time. And it needs to be productive. And you have to have pen to paper, fingers on keyboards all the time. And I think one thing, I've started writing a diary in the mornings of tasks that I need to do.
Sick.
But I've also then started, before I write any tasks, I write it's almost like a quote of the day. And my quote, and it's like to myself. So like, what do I need from today? And sometimes it's like, relax. Whatever you do today is enough. Chill out. It's fine.
Yeah.
And other days it's like, stop focusing on being busy. Focus on nailing these things that you're about to write down.
Yeah.
Once you've nailed the things that you've written down, they're the tasks that actually are going to move your business forward.
Yeah.
Then you can do bits and shits that you feel like you maybe want to do or whatever, but don't get so fixated on like being busy all of the time, because man, I've been a busy idiot for the last 3 years. It's only in the last sort of like 6 to 12 months that I've stopped being, I'd say actually this year is the first year I've stopped being a busy idiot. And I really try and just do things that actually make a difference and they don't just take up time.
That's it. I think like I've started writing, early in the year, started doing power lists. So every day being like, right, what are the important things? And I look back this morning, I was like, well, I've done all the power list stuff that I wanted to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, today. So I don't know what I was stressing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just got to me and I was like, I was juggling, putting too much pressure on myself. But apart from that, I'm chilling, man.
Good.
Yeah, it's good. Just went to John Lewis to talk about my Christmas pop-up.
That's so cool, isn't
Which
it?
would be sick.
Having your brand in like such a big household name.
And 27th of November to 3rd December.
Sweet.
For a week, which is cool. A bit like, I don't say it's not my target market, but it is, because some of the guys in there were like fashionable, like super fashion.
We were talking about this as well though, because their own brand is not like streetwear, but you were saying like some of the, what's it called? Weekdays or something?
Any day.
Any day. That's the one. You said some of that stuff appealed to you. That's their own brand. And then they obviously supply or stock like Dickies and brands like that. So it's not as far out as you'd maybe.
No.
I think the average person would think that John Lewis, maybe you don't necessarily think streetwear straight away, but actually when you look deeper into it.
Yeah, like the Levi's they had in there was incredible today. I was like, I want like 5 or 6 pieces, like real standout pieces.
Yeah.
Cool. But now, we're good. So yeah, can't believe it's episode 3 already.
I know.
It's crazy.
I'm trying to imagine like what happens when we do 2 a month.
I know.
Or more.
Yeah.
Like how does that work? I feel like we're in here a lot.
But we'll do like the one and then we'll get the edit and it'll be like, right, the next one when we start doing 2. I'm buzzing for the next few for this year.
Yeah, me too.
Good. But yeah, so we'll talk about what we spoke about on the end of the last episode, which was obviously like we talked about who we are and what we've come to in what got us to this point now. And obviously you missed off one of the biggest things. So we're going to speak about it a little bit at the end of the last episode, but yeah, kind of go over it again and in a summary, and then we'll go from there and talk about that in more detail.
I'll just preface it and say, depending on what you ask me, it could get a bit graphic.
Yeah.
Just if you're squeamish, you're listening to this. We might lose Matt in a minute.
Yeah. So if I don't say anything for the next half an hour, I'm on the floor. I can just explain everything.
So I think it was February 17. It might be 18. I can never remember. I had a big car accident. Basically, someone lost control coming towards me. It was a super cold, icy morning. They potentially went around the corner too quickly and skidded their way towards me. And I was kind of like in my car doing 50 miles an hour, just chilling, and I could see they'd lost control. But at that point, I was like, they fucked it. I didn't quite realise that I had also fucked it by continuing to drive at them. I was just driving like, they've got a problem.
Yeah.
and I'm driving straight into it, but just oblivious to the fact that I'm about to put myself in danger. So yeah, basically they were sliding all over the road. I ended up T-boning them. So they came onto my side of the road, and I literally met their car. They were side on to me.
Okay.
And I hit the middle of their car. So hit like between passenger door and, between the front and the back door, basically, which luckily for me is the softest part of the car, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I've hit it with the front of mine, which is basically the hardest part of the car if you think the engine's sat in there.
Yeah.
I actually went from going 50 miles an hour in one direction to facing the other direction, and I was also closer to home. So I actually went backwards. So I went from 50 miles an hour to behind where I'd come from, like literally on a sixpence. That was probably the biggest moment when we went to the coroners and they explained that to us, that I'd actually ended up closer to home than where the collision was. I was like, whoa, I was doing 50 at that time. So to go from doing 50 to facing the other direction, being closer to home in like that faster time.
Yeah.
Like, and subsequently because of that, I tore my bowel in 3 places. I also had a compound fracture on my femur, the knee. So like where your femur comes down, and creates like your knee, so the top of my knee basically. So I crushed here for anyone watching, like the inner portion of my right knee. And then so they took me into A&E. Well, before that, I didn't lose consciousness at all. So I was awake for all of it. Apart from, there's like the collision moment where it kind of goes black.
Yeah.
And you're facing the other way. But I think it's because the impact was so hard. It was like I was driving and then I was facing back where I came from. But the impact is so quick and so violent that you don't necessarily recognize like spinning round to face the other way. You're just like that way, then you're that way. And so I was sat there and I was like, watched too many films where cars catch on fire. I thought, I can't sit here. What if it goes up? So I was like, body checked everything. My biggest one was like my neck. Does my neck work? Do my hands work? Yes. So everything, like turned my head. I was like, okay, we're sound. Hadn't quite realized that my knee. So I had, like dungarees on.
Yeah.
I was a joinery apprentice at the time. So I had dungarees on, and my knee had hit the underside of the steering wheel column. So like you've got a bit of plastic that basically encases the steering, where the shaft for the like steering wheel, I imagine, goes. So it's probably just electric stuff now, but it's just a not soft, but like round, blunt bit of plastic, basically. I hit my knee on that so hard, it split my dungarees.
Jesus.
And my knee, obviously. So my knee was just like wide open. I was like, okie dokie. Yeah. So then I was like, my door wouldn't open, so I couldn't get my door open. I guess the frame of the car had like moved enough that it just didn't match anymore. Passenger window was open. I don't know whether it was smashed or it was open, but I just thought, that's where we go. So I undid my seatbelt, pretty much just using my upper body, just like pulled myself across out of the passenger window, and I just kind of like let my torso drop over the side. So my legs were still in the car. My hands were on the floor. I remember looking up, and this woman was driving past really slowly, just like it's like a movie. Like her head just like followed me as she drove past, and the traffic was still going. So it's like, not, what do you call it, single carriageway. So there's a lane on either side. That's it. But because both of the cars were on my side of the road, that line of traffic was just still people were just still driving by, and you got me facing the other direction. The other car was on its roof.
Jeez.
So like, I mean, you'd have stopped, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
But people are just like, I don't want to be late for work, so I just carry on.
That sums up a lot of people.
Yeah. So I got out, hobbled down the road. This bloke comes up, he's like, "You're right, mate." I was like, "That really hurt. Can you ring my mum?"
Yeah.
He was like, "Yeah." I think he also had like a look of fear on his face, because he was like, "Oh my God, I've got to ring this guy's mum. What do I tell her?" Just tell her I'm fine. Tell her my tummy hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, got scooped up. They cut all my clothes off me and put me on a board.
Yeah.
It was like -3. It was freezing, mate.
Yeah.
It was so cold. Like literally all they left on was my boxers. I was like vibrating on the road. Whipped me up to hospital. I think I was in and out of consciousness because I just remember sort of like snippets of it. They drugged me up nicely. And then we got into the emergency room. There was lots of stuff going on. My mum was there. Charlie was there. I remember looking. I was like laying down and I looked like above my head and there was a monitor like that. I could see these numbers. I said to my mum, I was like, is that my heart rate? She goes, yeah. I was like, that's pretty good, isn't it? Mate, it was low 60s.
What?
Yeah. I was
I
like,
don't think mine sings when I sleep.
I was like, that's sick. I was just had a car accident. My heart rate's still in the 60s.
Yeah.
And my mum said that they couldn't decide what to do because they couldn't understand why my heart rate was still so low and my blood pressure was still so low.
Yeah.
So they were like, his body is fine. It's saying that everything's fine. Obviously his knee's mangled, but we can't. I obviously had pain from here, so I was like, I've got a lot. I said straight away, I've got internal bleeding. It felt like I'd wet myself, but there's nothing there.
Okay.
So you're kind of. I was like, well, the only thing it can be is liquid inside of me instead of outside of me. So, and it didn't like hurt. It was just weird. Just kind of like, that's a bit minging, really. It wasn't until later that it hurt. So yeah, they took me into surgery. They made me sign some stuff basically to say that like, if I die, it's not their fault. If I have a colostomy bag for the rest of my life, it's like, I'm fine with it. Like I just had to basically say that they can save my life and do whatever they need to do to, but when they scanned me, they couldn't, or it was just all black from blood. So they couldn't see anything.
Okay.
So they were like, we're going to have to open you up. So they split me from my sternum basically down to like my pubic bone, straight down the middle, opened me up, sucked everything out, like all the blood out. And then they're like, okay, that's where it's coming from. And from there, they can be like, they can fix it. So I tore my bowel in 3 places. If they'd have known that, they could have probably just keyholed it.
But they couldn't see.
They couldn't see it, so they had to split me wide open. So, yeah, I had like 1.5 foot of bowel taken out.
Whoa.
So, yeah, they just like snipped it, sewed it back together, stitched me back up. And I woke up with, like, I've got a hairy chest and a hairy tummy. I woke up with like half of one of my, like the right hand side of my chest was like shaved. And then I'm like shaved down the middle, but like not tidily. It's like a 2-inch, like just fucking shave mark all the way down. And then I've got staples all the way down and I can't see where they end as well. So I was like, oh, what?
Checking.
Literally, yeah.
You signed away, you could look down.
Yeah, they took it off. Yeah, so just wild, but you're so drugged up that you kind of like just take it in your stride. I was just like, wow, that's a bit worse than I thought it was going to be, but cool. I'm still here. And like, just for reference, for people listening, there were 3 confirmed fatalities in the other car, and then one of them, the police were really weird about the state of the other guy. So I don't know whether he survived or not. He survived enough for them to get him to hospital and for them to take some kind of statements from him, but they said that his statements didn't make sense. So
whether he was in that phase, in and out of consciousness, being like,
so I don't know. And then the coolest part for me as like a sports guy was I'd literally just woken up. I got mum, dad, Charlie there, and this guy came in from the surgery and he goes, man, what do you do for a living? It's like, I'm a joinery apprentice. He was like, you're not a professional athlete? It's like, no. He goes, mate, never seen anything like it. He said the whole surgery, we were waiting for your blood pressure to go up and for your heart rate to just like go into orbit. It's like, never happened. I think it's the other way. Blood pressure to drop is what they're.
Blood pressure drop and then heart rate up.
But he was like, never happened. He was like, you just stayed plumb through the whole thing. He was like, unreal. At the time, I was training for an ultra run. So I was in the gym lifting like 4 days a week.
And
I was probably running like 70k a week as well.
Jesus.
So doing a lot.
So many came in my life.
So yeah, so that's what I was training. So I was fit,
Yeah.
like in like really decent nick. But yeah, that's the coolest part for me. And then it's just rehab from there. Spent
Yeah.
a week in hospital. Some mad Irish guy next to me who was
Yeah.
hilarious. And yeah, and it's like medicine's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
The worst of it was at one point pre-surgery, they took me in for a scan and my morphine ran late. And I basically had asked for the morphine a while back and they were like, it's coming. And I was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
And then I don't know whether it was naivety or what it was, but one of the nurses said, like, can someone go and order that morphine? And then said to me, it's just on its way. And I was like, I know it's not on its way. I just heard you ask someone to go and order it. So I was like kicking off. And then I remember like really shouting. It was like really sore, like lower like pubic region. And then post-surgery, the worst of it was in hospital. I had really, really bad trapped wind. I don't know. Have you ever had trapped wind?
Don't think so.
Just like really like searing acute pain, but low down in your like pubic region.
Yeah.
And it's just horrendous.
Yeah.
Like that was the worst. And when you're trying to like, you can't get comfortable, like lay on my side, you just need to trump all the time basically, but it won't come out. So you're like, you've just got air rolling around. And then when I came out, I just had this series of, I think it happened 3 times where I think from the trauma, your bowel tries to roll over on itself. And that's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, I could imagine. Like,
So that's like, it feels a little bit like trapped wind. But when I saw the consultant, who saw the insurance consultant, I had to go to like various consultants for the insurance.
yeah,
He was like, oh, this is what it is. It's when your bowel is basically like trying to turn over on itself. And I didn't really understand it, but he was like, that's what's happening. It's called like
body's
colicky or
sick.
something. Yeah, wild.
like the stuff that your body can do. Oh yeah, like your body saved you pretty
Yeah.
much. Like you could have been a lot worse off. Like,
Yeah.
but what you did training wise before basically saved you.
Yeah, they said if I was like less fit, I probably would have died.
Yeah, which is mad. It's odd. Like I remember, I don't remember the day, the date, but I remember the day because I remember driving to when I was working in Leicester at the time, and I drove like past Harborough, and there was like fire engines and ambulances going. And I was like, oh, maybe something's happened on the A14. And I knew Toby, one of my best mates, would go down there, so I'd give him a message like, you okay? Like, because I remember him telling me about an accident like the week before. And then like 4 hours later, Zoe rings me and was like, Dan had an accident. I was like, holy shit, that's what everything was for this morning.
Yeah.
And I was like, then I knew it was bad before she'd even gone into like any details. And she also remembers driving to work and seeing them because we left like same time. And I was just like, that's crazy. Like, and then when I heard what happened, I was like, it's not a miracle that you're alive, but I was like, something obviously saved you.
Yeah.
And it was your body,
Yeah.
which is,
I always said I bounced really well.
yeah.
Whenever I played rugby, I do just bounce really nicely.
That was probably from the rugby days, like, you like just bounce around a pitch, and
Yeah.
that your body was used to like short, like hard impact in that
Yeah.
sense of like it's like bang, get up, do it again,
Yeah.
bang, get up, do it again. Like
I got fortunate, obviously, with the timing in terms of, like I said, probably the hardest part of my car hit the softest part of their car.
yeah,
But I was really relaxed on impact,
yeah,
not consciously like trying to chill myself out. I just was relaxed. Whereas I imagine if I like tightened up, it probably would have been a lot worse. But I kind of just like rode it, if that makes sense.
that makes sense. Like if you had maybe been like, right, slam the brakes on, seeing something come in, like your body would almost tense up.
Yeah.
They say that about snowboarding. Like, so if you fall over in snowboarding, or like you bail off a kicker or a rail, they just say go floppy.
Yeah.
Like just let your body just roll away.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lot. Because if you tense up, then if you hit your muscle or something on the like wrong part, you're going to cause injury.
Yeah, I used to do judo, and it's like the same. Once someone's got you and you're getting like laid out,
Yeah.
just chill. Just let him take you, mate. You're already in midair.
Yeah.
And hit the ground nice and soft, like you said, a bit floppy. Just like, yeah, just let your body
Yeah.
ride through it. So I think that probably helped.
That was like some of the notes that I made was that point of like, I remember you saying about the doctor being like, your body pretty much saved you. Then a lot of people, there'll be two types of people that will come out of the accident and be like, right, my knee's fucked, like bowel's fucked. I could just go down the route of like claim some shit and I've got to live with it for the rest of my life and that's it. Or there's people that like, right, like you, where what can I do to recover? I want to be back to where I was. And then that's the route you took.
Yeah.
In terms of like, right, like I want to recover the best way possible. So like, yeah, how did you then find the recovery part in terms of like nutrition? What was your like thought process of behind it? Because you could have just sat there and ate shit the whole time, feeling like when you were feeling shit, you could have just been like, right, Deliveroo, if Deliveroo was a thing.
Yeah.
Then I don't think it was, but yeah, you could have just ate shit. Well, what was your thought process of being like, right, how can I recover in that sense?
Yeah, I don't know because you're not feeling very well. Because I had so many drugs still in me.
Yeah.
You're not like 100% with it. So it's not like you're sat at home with like full cognitive function. You're not sharp. I think initially I remember eating loads of Heinz tomato soup. You know, when you just like that first bit, you just need to eat whatever sits well with you.
Yeah,
also, I just had my bowels torn apart, so I'm kind of like, what can I eat?
Yeah.
Does everything go down normally, or like is something going to explode it? What's the deal here? So
Order a Jaffrey.
yeah, maybe honestly, I had a curry
Yeah.
a week and a half afterwards,
Yeah.
and I absolutely nailed it. And I genuinely worried all night that my bowels were going to explode,
Just
like inside me. Yeah,
the gases
like,
just
yeah.
gases have been like,
Actually, like I was so full, and I was like, I don't know if can we handle this. Like honestly, I actually didn't know. So
it's crazy.
it was interesting. I would say that I didn't really think about it that much. I didn't have the level of knowledge then that I do now. So I was in a different mind space with like nutrition and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think what I would say is I met physio from my rugby days, and he was the first person to ever like actually solve a problem for me.
Yeah.
All other physios had given me solutions to deal with the pain on a temporary basis for whatever the injury was. But when I went to see Chris with like lower back pain, and I've seen him for some shoulder issues as well, he actually gave me a reason as to why I was getting the pain and a solution for it. It's not just come back in 2 weeks for some treatment. This is what's wrong. This is why it hurts all the time. This is how you fix it. Not just come and see me. This is how you fix it if you actually go and do the work. So I built a relationship with Chris, he owns the injury clinic in Harborough. And so straight away I was like, not interested in the NHS physios.
Yeah.
I want to go and see Chris. Like non-negotiable. And I knew, having spoken to my solicitors, I knew that I would be able to get that paid for as well, to go for more sessions, to go and get fixed up. And so I went into Chris, and I also knew from my relationship with Chris that like 80% of people don't recover from injuries purely because they just don't do the rehab.
Yeah.
That's it. Like I imagine the recovery rate of people who do the rehab is in the 80%. But he said most people who come in, who end up coming back, the reason they end up coming back is because they haven't done what we've told them they need to do. So in my mind, I'm like, right, well, if I want to get out of this hole of having my legs smashed to pieces and my stomach completely cut open, I need to do what he tells me to do every day. And that's where like that sort of like dog in me was just kind of like, cool, you have no excuses, mate.
Yeah.
If you want to be a fully functioning human again, if you want to run again, if you want to go to the gym, squat, if you want to play rugby, whatever, you just need to shut up and do what he's told you to do.
Yeah.
And it's boring exercises 3 to 5 times a day. Oh my God, mate, so boring.
Yeah.
Like, but it's what you need. It's that foundational stuff of like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He understands the problem. He understands how to get you out of the problem. Just do it. And I think that's really what enabled my recovery. I started super, super slow on the front end, and it meant that I got to the back end and the fun part way quicker. Whereas most people would have tried to go too quick out the gate and would have prolonged reaching that back part for another 3-6 months.
Yeah.
And he said to me straight away, he said, the hardest thing is going to be keeping the brakes on. He said, because you're just going to want to go and push it and do things. Just do what I tell you to do.
And that's interesting because it's like, brings it back to like what I was saying, like there'll be some people that will kind of like just be like, well, I'm going to live with it. And there'll be the people that go and see him every 2 weeks being like, nothing's getting better. And,
Yeah.
and he's like, have you done your exercises 3 to 5 times a day? They'll be like, oh, I did it for like 2 days. And then one day I couldn't because I was really busy and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that. And it's like, well, if you wanted to recover, then you put in those little bits. And then that's like, it kind of shows your strength of character in that sense, but also it probably comes from your sportsmanship days of being like putting in the grind. Like if you want to get better at something, you just got to chip away at the smaller things.
Yes.
Because especially in rugby, you're doing like the basics, but you've got to do the basics every single training sessions, because then it becomes like a second nature. But then like 2-3 years down the line, like that's, you go into the fun stuff, but you can do the fun stuff incredibly well. You can enjoy it as much because you put all in the back work. And it's like almost that with being like self-employed. So we both grind a lot for the, and like now it's like it's slow. You've got to put the brakes on and stuff. You've got to chip away, knowing that in so many years' time we can enjoy the better things in life.
Yeah.
But we're not like expecting it to be like now.
Yeah.
Like it's that you've got to put in that grind. A lot of people don't want to do that because they just want results straight away.
Yeah.
And I think that was really interesting of like that slow process.
I think it's a Gary Vee quote. It's something like, you got to treat every day like a sprint, but you've got to treat the process like it's a marathon.
Oh.
And it's that kind of like, what can you get done today?
Yeah.
And 100% is 100% of what you've got. Doesn't mean that you're at 100% capacity every single day.
Yeah.
You might only have 60% in the tank. That 60% then is your 100%.
Yeah.
Can you give that today? Like, can I give something I use with my clients all the time, based on what's happened, how you're feeling, scenarios you've encountered, situations you've had to deal with. Have you given 100%? I'm not saying have you had a flawless week. I'm saying have you given it everything you could have given it?
Yeah.
And that's the thing on a daily basis. Can you do that? And if you do that, you have to acknowledge that it's doing that over a long period of time. That's the marathon part. That gets you where you want to be. And I used to watch a lot of motocross documentaries.
Yeah.
Motocross is like a gnarly sport.
It's mental.
And they used to do lots of like cinematic behind the scenes, these like, no one trains harder than these guys. So it was a lot of like training videos, and a lot of it was just about like who wants it more, who's willing to suffer the most, basically. And when I was coming up, I wanted to be a rugby player. And one of the things I got told was that like my passing, as a scrum half, they told me my passing wasn't good enough. And in year 10, I spent, I think I said this last episode, I spent every single break time passing rugby balls.
Yeah. Is this the first episode or second?
Yeah, just like I'd go to the sports hall with my mate Hayden, and I'd grab a rugby ball. They'd have one in the teacher's fucking office. They'd pop a rugby ball up to me, and I'd go in 20 minutes, hammer rugby balls out for 20 minutes every day for a year and a half. And I think watching those documentaries, understanding that quite often the guys that work the hardest were the ones that came out on top, and just taking that, I'd always had that mentality of like, I will outwork anyone in the room. And ironically, that's almost, I'm not trying to work that out of myself, but I'm now trying to be like, it's not about working hard for the sake of working hard. It's about like working smarter and not being a busy idiot. Yeah. But yeah, and I think I just took that mentality in, and then also putting yourself in the right environment. So as soon as I was well enough to like get myself to the gym, I then went and did my exercises at the gym. So rather than being at home where I've got a sofa and a TV and not a lot of space, go and put yourself in the right environment to do it. Like people in the gym, you see people training, you're like, wicked. I'm going to be training in 6 months' time if I just carry on doing what I'm doing and turn up and just like put the reps in and go through it like that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm lucky that I have that mindset. Maybe I'm lucky that I watched lots of videos when I was younger. I don't know which one it is. I think I'm just so aware that if you want a lot of anything that you want in life comes from a good chunk of hard work.
For sure. And I think, yeah, there's some people do have that mentality in them, whether they use it to their full potential or just maybe don't not necessarily not choose to use it, just happy with what they've got, and that's their life and whatever. But I'm with you, like from such a young age I've always wanted to have things like, I'm like, right, I want to be able to do that, I want to do this, I want to have my own clothing brand, I want to be working for myself and that, and I went through the grind and then now I'm here. But just from putting in that little bit of prep every single day, putting in the grind after work, like researching, like I'll watch videos on like manufacturing paper and stuff, like really interesting stuff. Like that's super boring. But yeah, like, so I wanted to learn about that because it's like, that helps me. If someone asks me a question about it, like a client, I could be like, yes, you can use this to use that. Like, it's just having that knowledge. I think knowledge is so powerful in like the area that you want to specialize in. Being a graphic designer as well, like you can specialize in loads of different things, but I've narrowed it down to one thing, packaging, because that's what I wanted. I was so interested in. But yeah, it's that mindset it's in you, but then it's like knowing how to use it and wanting to use it. Like you obviously watching all the videos and seeing that the guys that are successful, and it's like skate videos as well. Like Ryan Sheckler's just released his latest, like last month or so, and he tried one trick for 2 years to try and get that one, and he nailed it, and he only nailed it once over those 2 years. And that was like the ending part video. But it's like that skaters as well are just like bounce, and you're like, how? Like after like 4 or 5 trials on it, but like, now I'm going home. But it's like that mentality of like grind it, spend months at a spot, and then they get it, roll away and be like, right, done now. The satisfaction lasts 20 seconds and then it's like, right, what else? On to the next one. So it's really interesting in that sense. I did have some more questions. So obviously, like, gone into like recovery and obviously nutrition, you just eating what you kind of, obviously soup, and then you went into like more things and getting into that. And I guess the next part is like almost that you're transitioning to then, you get yourself back 6-12 months and you're back in the gym. And obviously we spoke about it in the other podcast of like going into PTing. But do you think the accident had any effect on you wanting to become a PT in that sense, other than like just to getting the money and things like that? That like your body saved you, so it's like, well, you could help somebody else, transform their body, and that could potentially save their life. Do you think what was your transition there? Was there any transition in that in your head, like of going from the accident to PTing and like helping other people?
I really, really want to say yeah. Actually, it just wasn't.
Yeah, that's just an interesting one.
Yeah.
Some people might see that as like, oh, well, Dan had the accident and it became PT because his body saved him, so that could have been his reason. But just interesting to know if that was actually
a struggle, because someone was like, you should market it like that. And I was kind of like, it's just not the truth though. I can't because it's just not what I feel.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to say, which I think people may find interesting, was when someone gets a terminal illness or a serious illness that they can overcome, and they overcome it, they're quite often then are like, I'm going to live every day as if it's my last. Like, I'm so grateful for my life. I'm not doing that job anymore. I'm going to go and like live my best life and see my family more, and et cetera, et cetera. And I think a lot of people probably expected it to be like a wake up call.
Yeah.
If anything, it had the opposite effect. I lost my confidence massively.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they would have been like, I survived that. Like Charlie's mum calls me a superhero.
Oh,
So a lot of people would have been like, I'm Superman.
yeah.
I was like, fuck, I'm not indestructible anymore. I legit thought I was indestructible
Yeah.
beforehand, honestly. Like, yeah, being on a rugby pitch, bouncing off things, like, had some big motocross crashes that I've just bounced away from. Like,
Yeah.
I thought I was indestructible, and then I've had something that's nearly ruined me, and that really took a hit on me. And I was like, I remember it was actually Chris, the physio, who said, like, your presence in a room is not what it used to be. And I was like, fucking hell, mate. Thanks for that.
Keep the one I'm
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. But that was probably like 3 years after the accident. And I was kind of like, okay, that's really interesting. And I knew I wasn't myself, like how I feel myself now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I hadn't figured out what was missing, why it was missing, what was going on. And yeah, I would say it really knocked my confidence in that sense of like, I felt like I was a person who could go anywhere, look after myself,
Yeah.
be okay, know that my body would look after me, which it did.
Yeah.
But after the accident, it put a different spin on it for me. In my mind, I was like, oh, I can lose.
Yeah.
I can lose. If something hits me hard enough, I will go down.
Yeah.
And that wobbled me for a good while.
That's interesting. It is interesting because a lot of like sports people would find losing or something like really difficult, and it's then how they overcome that to then like bounce back and win the next game or whatever, like whatever sport they're in. But yeah, that is interesting because I genuinely thought it would have had the opposite effect.
Yeah.
But it's good that you didn't market it in that sense, your PT, because you, like you said, it's like you could have marketed it and it would have been a great story, but if you had no passion behind it or no legit like feeling that was the thing, I think it would burn out quite quickly.
For sure.
Like, and people wouldn't see the. Like,
It's not genuine.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, people will just see through it eventually. So yeah, it really is interesting how it had that opposite effect, especially with the confidence thing. Like, but maybe, and I remember like saying in one of the episodes, like people will call you arrogant when you're younger. Like, do you think, like, in terms of like holding a room, you'd walk in, you'd be confident enough, and like people would be like, oh, he's just arrogant. Like, do you think people would not say that now, like if they met you in that sense? Because I personally wouldn't think, like when I first met you, I didn't think you were arrogant at all, and that was
really interesting you bring that up. Dino, if you're listening, you'll love this bit, because Dean messaged me and he was like, fucking hell, this is exactly the same as what I was when I was younger. And I was like, oh, interesting. And he was talking about like not forgiving we spoke about like our younger selves and like, I don't know if I can forgive my younger self. And he was like, it's not about forgiving your younger self. You didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's about telling your younger self that it's all right, and that those actions and the way you held yourself is okay. You're allowed to be that person. And I think, if anything, what I've acknowledged now is like, it really took away the aggressive part of me, that aggressive part of me that drives me to not do better than everyone else, to like walk on everyone else, like destroy everyone else, like not win by 5 points, win by 50 points kind of mentality, like that real raw aggression in me that has seen me through a lot of the things I've done in my life. Because I've used it in a positive way, it took that away from me, almost as if kind of like I was like a hurt animal that went and, not, I say coward in the corner, that's just the best way of like seeing, visualizing how I felt. I felt like I was like an aggressive dog that then got bit by something bigger and then went and hid in the corner and was afraid. And like and what I'm trying to do now is almost pull myself back, and like after Dean said the way you used to be is okay, I'm thinking like I need to get that presence back. It wasn't a negative thing. Like Chris, when Chris says you don't have the same, when you don't have that you don't have the presence in the room that you used to, he's saying that presence used to be a positive thing. He's not saying that's a good thing now that you don't have that. That's something I need to have. That's like me. And so I'm trying to, like, over the last couple of years, I've been trying to figure out, like, how do I get that back almost without bringing it out to a point where it feels like it might be a bit arrogant,
like forced in a way.
yeah, but how do I still remain humble within myself, but bring up that it's self-assurance is what it is. It's confidence within yourself. How do I bring that confidence within myself back? Because it fucking disappeared for a bit, well and truly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting like conversation that I have in my head, and I'm kind of like, I want to be that confident person that I used to be, and it's that self-assurance. But that moment in my life the accident has knocked me so much to know that I'm not indestructible.
Yeah.
That even if I'm 99% indestructible, still that 1%,
And it's a big
and that
1%.
I'm not good with what do you call it, uncertainty.
Yeah.
1% uncertainty.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's a big 1%.
Yeah, so I'm like, can I bring that back? Don't know, because there's that 1% there, which is ridiculous.
Because a lot of people would see that 1% of like, that's only 1%.
Yeah, whatever, just park it. But I struggle to bring out the full me if I know that there is a potential weakness somewhere, and that a weakness has been exposed, even though it's a ridiculous, like, even I'm sat here now knowing that this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
A weakness that I got was involved in like 100-mile-an-hour head-on collision and still survived. Well, that's a weakness, but that's just how I've perceived it. It's like I'm not indestructible anymore, so I need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
That's just how my brain's taking it.
That is mad. And like, now we've got spoken on the physical side, the mental side. How did you deal with that? Because I've never really spoken to you much about it. Like, I know when you did your Brady cast, like a few episodes of podcast, I listened to that one, even though it was tough because I nearly passed out because it was so so graphic. On a walk, like, Jesus, I need to get home just in case. But yeah, like the mental side of things, how was, like, what happened there? Like, because obviously you lost your confidence. You're saying that you're losing your confidence, but mentally, what kind of, did you have a lot of thoughts in your head? What was going on?
That was the first time not the first time. Can't have been the first time. Because we spoke about being depressed in job roles before.
Yeah.
That was the first time I'd say I was like depressed.
Yeah.
But it certainly came back hard so I had a 3-month stint where I was off work.
Yeah.
And also had a broken leg and had just had a laparotomy, which is my stomach split open. So like I wasn't that mobile. So you're not particularly mobile, sat at home for 3 months, not allowed to do anything strenuous. And I don't know how many people would go through that and not have some moments where they spiral. And I remember one moment in particular is really vivid in my mind, is having like an argument with Charlie about basically the NHS had offered me physiotherapy free naturally off the back of the accident, but the sessions that I'd been to with the physiotherapist weren't very good. As someone who'd got like a decent sporting background, and I've had enough injuries and been to enough physios to know like what rehab looks like at this point. And I knew that what I was doing with Chris was so much more beneficial. And Charlie was like, you should still go to the NHS ones because it's still worth your time. And I was like, it isn't. And I remember just losing my shit. I just started crying about it. And she was just like, whoa, like it's okay. But I was so frustrated at that snail's pace, even though I'd taken on the snail's pace and I knew it was what I needed to do. It was so infuriating for me to just be sat there not doing anything. And I know that during that period of time, I still had to correspond between my solicitors and some specialists and stuff like that. And I remember going to see a psychologist down in London, and he had those emails.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're definitely depressed here.
Yeah.
It's like reading the emails. He was like, this is the tone of someone who is like like on their ass. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I remember going to Reading. I went to Reading with the boys for a boys' night out, and like it didn't go perfectly how I'd envisaged it in my head. Like some of the travel took a bit longer. We didn't actually get like much of a night out time. We spent a lot of time traveling, and I became like really snappy and like irritable and just like not particularly pleasant. And again, I look back and like that's depression. That's someone that's not, it's me that's not all right. It's not like I just needed an arm around me and like, it's all right, mate. Chill, it's okay. But I look back on that and I think like none of the boys, I don't think, noticed it. I think that's what's scary about depression, mental health, is that we hide it so well. Like no one really clocked it. I don't think anyone said anything about it.
We are like terrible in that sense. Like just slightly off that, like one of my best mates at uni, lived with him for 2 years, and he told us like 5-6 years after uni, he was like, oh, I was depressed at that time. And I was like, I just thought you were in your room playing Xbox or whatever. Yeah. And I wish I'd had my knowledge now, but 10 years ago, to recognise that, to be like, it's okay, mate, we'll just come into the lounge and we'll just chill, whatever. Like, and it is bad in that sense. But yeah, obviously you were, you thought, oh, you need that night out, and it's like, it just didn't go the way you wanted it to. And that was probably because you were, frustrated at like the space and everything. So it was like built up, and then you had that one kind of like outing. You thought, great, it's gonna be time to kind of like lay your hair down, whatever, and you just felt frustrated because it didn't go the way that you wanted to.
Yeah, I think I read something the other week that is like your response to things is a barometer of like how you're feeling at a given time, like the stress on you at a given time. For example, like if someone cuts you up or if someone does something dumb on the roads, what's your reaction to it? Because if your reaction is aggressive, fucking swearing, shouting at them, all right, what's up? What else is going on, either broadly or just short term on that day? You're having a stressful day, or are you stressed? Because I know when I'm relaxed, if someone does something dumb on the road, I'm just like, fucking idiot. And I just laugh, or I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm not, someone pulled in front of me the other day and they were doing like 10 miles an hour below the speed limit. Fully on it. I was like, this is a piss take. I've got a lot to, I was feeling the stress on that day.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really good indication of how you react to things is generally a good indication of how you're feeling at a given time.
Yeah. And it's from like my point of view now, it's if one of my friends reacted in ways that I thought was out of character in a way, I'd know there'd be something wrong, and I'd maybe approach it slightly differently.
Yeah.
But traffic-wise, way to go to the Philippines, mate. I'm a confident driver, but I would not drive in the Philippines. I'd be in the same place for an hour, letting people in because I'm like too nice. So I hold this constantly. But yeah, that's it. Like when you look at a lot of road rage, it's like someone cuts someone up and then instantly they're out the car, everyone's aggressive. And I went to see Ant Middleton when he did his Mind Over Muscle tour in Northampton, and like it was really interesting. That really helped me with understanding that, like, if you're in an aggressive situation, like from a guy's point of view, just back down out of it, because it's more alpha to be like, you're aggressive, I don't want that, no thank you very much. Like thinking about your response, depending on like even though your mood might be like, you might be so frustrated and angry inside, just like take that moment, like 10 seconds before you say and do anything.
Yeah.
And now I adopt that into my life. If someone's not going the way, I take 10 seconds and be like, well, it's fuck all I can do about it. Or like, oh, well, I don't want to be in that situation. That guy's aggressive at me for some reason, whatever. Like I might have cut him up by mistake, but it is what it is. Like just back
It takes a level of self-awareness to do that.
Yeah. And that's that.
There's levels to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I feel that I'll be honest, I feel like most guys aren't even at that level to be able to say, take a minute. Yeah. Are you all right? Did you mean to do that? Like, you're already here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's
most guys are in this space.
Yeah, and that's literally what the point I was coming to is like it is that. It's like that I've now taught myself that self-awareness. Obviously at that time you weren't self-aware that was happening until you went to London and the guy was like, well, actually looking at this from an outside perspective, there's like some issues and stuff. Have you kind of like say, I'd say like I wouldn't say you're depressed, but like in terms of have you got past that type of thing? Do you still think about that day that happened, or
No, mate, I feel like it's a dream.
Yeah,
I feel like it never happened. It's weird.
That's crazy.
I feel like I went up that road the other day. It's just nothing. I think because it wasn't my fault, I couldn't have done anything differently.
Yeah.
I was just driving along a road, and I think because of that, I just completely disconnected from it. And I'm just kind of like, okay, cool. I've got like enough shit to deal with myself physically to focus on. And also, and it wasn't my fault, so I can let go of that.
So my thing was like, I wonder if you ever got like guilt that obviously other people, there was fatalities. Obviously it wasn't your fault, so it was kind of like, I didn't know if that ever played on your mind.
No. No, not at all. I feel really lucky in that sense. I do, because I know that's not normal in terms of like, I think the majority of people would have some attachment, guilt, emotion to that situation. Whereas for me, my mind just works in that like a way where it's just very black and white. I don't work in much grey space. I'm like, these are the facts. This is what happened. It's not on me.
Yeah.
And fortunately for me, my brain is then able to just be like, it's okay, mate.
Yeah.
So I don't hold any guilt or anything like that. I do think I'm more vulnerable now out the back of it mentally. I think having gone through a couple of waves of depression, my anxiety is way worse than it used to be.
Yeah.
And it generally, I think for most people, it goes through like patches. Some people obviously have like chronic anxiety where it's low level, like or whatever level all the time. Yeah. I think for a lot of people, it comes in like waves. You'll have like a couple of days or a couple of weeks where you're anxious, and that definitely happens. But I also know that that's completely correlated to how work is going, how external things are going, and also what I'm doing on a daily basis. Yeah. If I'm sleeping properly, training properly, like if I'm in good routines, normally my headspace is all right.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like that trauma's you're gonna have something from the trauma. Like if you had said you were completely fine and it is what it is, then it's
psychopath,
like,
mate.
Yeah.
Lock me up.
Yeah, get a Netflix documentary. So you're gonna have those, and some days are gonna trigger that to make it worse than it is.
Yeah.
But for me though, like I found it is like very inspirational, and that's why I PT'd with you at that time, or twice. Have I done it twice with you? I did like one little session, then we did like a bigger into it, and that helped me. Like now I'm like in my weight's always gone up and down, depending on whether I'm stressed or like what. Like, but I'm in a better position now, like physically, which was down to you, because I found like what the progress I saw from you having the accident to where you got to, I was like, I've got no excuse. Like I've not had that, so there's no reason why I can't get to that point.
I think that's a really important thing for me to be like, I've never been like overweight or anything, so I can't say I've experienced being overweight, not massively overweight anyway. Like I've carried more body fat than I've wanted to, but I've never been like a fat person or sort of like an over fat person. But what I can say is that like 2 weeks after that accident, within 2 weeks I lost 14 kilos of muscle.
Jesus.
It disappeared. I was like 65 kilos of skin and fucking bone. There was not a lot of muscle on me at all, and I've gone from that frame to I was up to like I put that muscle back on pretty much within like a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I know that whilst I've not gone from being an obese person or a bigger person and had to go through the struggle of losing losing lots of body fat.
Yeah.
I have gone from fucking bare bones and not moving very well
Yeah.
to putting muscle back on and building myself back up.
Yeah.
And like the journey works in both ways.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just a journey. And I think your journey is super interesting. That's what I wanted to, when we spoke about it at the end of episode 2, I was like, this needs to be episode 3.
I just can't believe I forgot.
Yeah, I know. It's mad. So I was like, hold on a minute. You missed out the most important thing that happened to you in the last like 6 years. But no, for me, it was super inspirational. And that's why I went into like PTing with you and then like we're in that position now. And I'm still like, mine's still a journey. Like I'm still on that fitness journey, but I've just taken it slowly. I've not been like super strict. I've just been like, I know I can get to a point. And like when I was in the gym the other day and like 3 separate people that came in were like, oh, you're looking really trim now. And I was like, well, I don't see it, which is really cool. Like that people are recognizing. It's great as well. Like guys are saying that to the guys because it's not something that people like guys usually do.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you see someone who's wearing a sick outfit, being like, oh, I like your outfit, or whatever, like giving them a bit more self-confidence.
Yeah.
No, I found it inspirational. So with your journey, so that's why I wanted to have the whole episode pretty much on it, because then it comes into PT and me, and now I'm in a better journey, but like physical helps mental so much.
I literally said this to one of my clients last week. He's had like an emotional few weeks.
Yeah.
And I said to him, look, you've had an emotional like couple of weeks, but the reality is you've not done what we've set out to do for the last 6.
Yeah.
Now, I'm fine with you feeling your emotions. You need to do that, but 6 weeks is a lot longer than it needed to be.
Yeah.
You're going to feel so much better up here if you go and do what we set out to do.
Yeah.
And this week, night and day. The response I got from him this week is like upbeat.
Yeah.
With it. He's like, this week's been good. It's had intensity. I've like nailed my nutrition. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, because you change your mental by changing your physical
Yeah. For sure.
all the time.
Yeah.
People underestimate it.
And like that, like sense of like achievement as
Yeah.
well. Like just before we came here, when I was walking up Granbury Street, some like guy asked if I had any money like to buy something. Obviously like a homeless guy, and I was like, I don't have any cash, but do you want a sandwich or whatever? He went and got him a sandwich and a bottle of shower gel from his hostel. So it's like I feel like afterwards, like I feel really good. Like I've given something back, that like I'm in a position very fortunate that I can. I've got a house, I've got a roof over my head.
Yeah.
He's not in that position. He's living in a hostel. I'm like, yes, I'm self-employed and I've got a mortgage to pay, but I'm way better off than he is, so I can help him out in that sense. And I'm glad that I didn't have any cash, doesn't have to go and spend on drugs or anything. We got him something nice, like it's that sense of achievement, sense of giving as well. Like, yeah, it is cool. And I think that is
We're wrapping up.
time.
Mate, we need to book out 2 hours. I know. I could go on for another hour.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it just links in so nicely to like you working on yourself.
Yeah.
Off the back end of it. So I feel like, food for thought.
Yeah, episode 4.
Yeah, but seriously, but also, I just think these are really good because they're like condensed. But I know both of us, particularly last month, and I feel like today it's gone by so fast.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll book out some more time.
Sweet.
So we can explain it in more detail, because I think people will listen, whatever
They'll tell us if it's too long.
Yeah.
It's shit. Shut up.
Yeah.
Right. Go back to an hour.
Just after an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. If you haven't subscribed, or on YouTube, if you haven't subscribe, hit the bell. If you listen to on Spotify, give it a like, give it a rating, which I wasn't able to do the other day because I hadn't listened to it. And you have to listen to it first, because I watch it on YouTube, and then obviously I listened to it beforehand, so I need to listen to it.
Can you subscribe on Spotify, or is it follow?
It's follow.
Is it
Spotify?
Give us a follow.
And give it a share. Apple Music and Amazon, sorry, still not there.
Yeah, my God, what effort that is.
Yeah.
Spotify and YouTube for the moment.
Yeah. So
not got enough brain space for that at the minute.
Oh no, yeah, it's just a nightmare with those two, considering they're, Apple's my dream. But like, why are you so difficult? So yeah, thanks again.
Thank you, everyone.